I told you. Brandon Ingram is having a breakout season. But could he really become an all-star in the 2019-2020 season? Listen, it may not be as far-fetched as you think. Brandon Ingram, all 6'9", a $180 dripping wet. He's having a career year. So in this journey, I'm going to break down where Brandon Ingram is this year to start the season off, how that compares to the first 3 years in LA, and then we're going to go full circle. And I'm going to compare how he's stacking up against the guys that are looked at as all-stars and even superstars. Let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal X. Now in this journey, I'm going to be discussing Brandon Ingram because as we know, the young kid from the beginning was getting high praise and high comparisons. Even before he came into the NBA, people were comparing him and Kevin Durant mainly because of their body frame. That slender 6'8", 6'9" frame with the 7'2", 7'3" wingspan. But Ingram hasn't lived up to that. And listen, I can't knock Ingram for not hitting the superstar status that Kevin Durant is on because he's not Kevin Durant. No, how many people are Kevin freaking Durant? But you got to give credit where credit is due. Kevin Durant himself came out and said when he looks at Brandon Ingram, it's like he's looking in the mirror. And it was not just body frame he was talking about. It was game. It was the skill set. Brandon Ingram's ability to be multifaceted. Brandon Ingram, he's got a nice jumper. It's still a work in progress, but he's got a very, very efficient jumper. A nice tight handle that he's worked rigorously on. And he's got the ability to be a defender. With his wingspan, his instincts, the standing reach, the athleticism that he has, he can be a capable defender, and we're seeing that. I think the comparisons to Kevin Durant, it put too much pressure on Brandon Ingram, to be honest with you. And then you got to also throw into the factor he was playing in LA. Now, playing in LA, he got off to a slow start. And that's been a common theme for Brandon Ingram. Every season, the first 3 years, he started slow. The first 20 games, go back and look at it. The first 20 games for Ingram, his rookie year, sophomore, and even last year, he starts off slow. And then after that 20th game or so, he starts getting his confidence, he gets his legs under him, and he takes off and has the best part of his year. That's important, and we'll get back to that and why that's important in a minute. But his first 3 years, you saw him go from 9 points a game, 16 points a game, 18 points a game, and now he's got career numbers. It's not just the points though, because anybody can score more when you are shooting more. Brandon Ingram, we've seen his efficiency go up year after year after year. First 3 years, every single season, his field goal percentage went up. This year, he's like 48% from the field. This year, he's shooting a career high from the three at 42% from three. This is a guy who, when he came into the league, was a capable three-point shooter, but he was nowhere near shooting on the 42% level that he's shooting at now. We've seen his rebounds go up. Listen, this guy's across the board. I'm talking about across the board is having career highs. Points, rebounds, assists, everywhere. And this should be no surprise. For those that watch Brandon Ingram at Duke University, this should be no surprise. He's almost like a Mr. Gadget with those arms. He surprised people even as a rookie. He would come out and put guys on posters. If you didn't see the one where he put Giannis Antetokounmpo on a poster, go check it out. And I think the comparison to Giannis is a very interesting one. Not just Giannis, but other guys. Look at the careers of a Paul George, of a Jimmy Butler, a Gordon Hayward, Giannis, Kawhi. Go back and look at the first 3 to 4 years of all of those players. What you'll find is that those guys, it took them typically the 3rd to 4th year before they even got into the All-Star. Some of them, it wasn't until their 5th year. It takes time. And a lot of times when guys are in places like Utah for Gordon Hayward, or guys are in places like Milwaukee for Giannis, or even San Antonio where you're just a role player around Hall of Famers like Kawhi Leonard, you can kind of get just, you kind of just fade in the background and, get your game going. Brandon Ingram was the number 2 pick for the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that was struggling, stuck in mediocrity, not even mediocrity, just stuck at the bottom of the barrel. And the spotlight was bright. They're looking for that next star. And when people start saying Brandon Ingram can be the next Kevin Durant, it put way too much pressure on this young kid. Brandon Ingram recently came out and talked about, just from last year, how he was dealing with mental depression. He wasn't happy in the situation that he was in. And I think that getting the trade out of LA to New Orleans, honestly, was the best thing for this man's career. This young kid is going to flourish so much finally being out of that LA spotlight. It's not for everybody. Talent is one thing. Pressure, especially mental pressure, that's something that you can't calculate in the box score, the stat sheet. You're not going to be able to look at somebody's measurables and to be able to see how they're going to handle pressure. You have to put somebody in that situation. Brandon Ingram wasn't made for LA, and that's fine. That's fine. So let's compare him to, and who I think a better comparison is, look at Pascal Siakam. Now, Pascal Siakam is a player that people consistently won MIP last year, most improved player. And in my opinion, he's probably the front runner for most improved player this year. Going from like 16, 17 points a game last year up to 26 points this year. Pascal Siakam is having a career year. We know he won the championship, proved he could be the second or third best player on a championship team. So we know he's elite. He's going to be an all-star this year. But here's something to take a look at. Pascal Siakam, in his 4th season, is 25 years old. Brandon Ingram, in his 4th season, he's only 22. Keep that in mind. Brandon Ingram hasn't gotten his man strength yet. He's still growing into his body. But look at those two and look at the stats just from this year. Because if you're comparing Brandon Ingram to Pascal Siakam for the first 3 years of their career, first year, second, third, Brandon Ingram has the better stats in every single year. This year is a very interesting one because this is the first time Pascal Siakam is undeniably the best player on his team. And this is also the first time that Brandon Ingram has been put in a position where undeniably he's the best player on his team. In 3 less minutes per game, Brandon Ingram, the 22-year-old 6'9", 7'3" wingspan product out of Duke University, is giving you 26 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 48% from the field, 42% from 3, and 81% from the free throw line. That's about as efficient as you're going to get for a young 22-year-old player. But look at Pascal Siakam. Once again, he's playing 3 more minutes per game than Brandon Ingram. The points, basically identical, 26 a game. The assists, basically identical, 4 assists a game. The steals, 0.8 a game. They're basically the same. The blocks, I think the blocks a little bit basically the same, but they favor Brandon Ingram. The only real difference here is that Pascal Siakam averages 1 more rebound than Brandon Ingram. 1 more and plays 3 more minutes a game. Look at the efficiency from the field, from the 3. Pascal Siakam is not shooting what Brandon Ingram is shooting from the field or the 3. This is a guy, Pascal Siakam, who, once again, MIP last year is, and most people, is the leading candidate for MIP this year, is 3 years older, playing 3 more minutes a game, is undeniably going to be an all-star this year. But Brandon Ingram is looked at as what? When you think about Brandon Ingram, what do you think of in your mind? How do you classify him in your mind? We know he's not just a role player. We know he's more than just an above average player. Is he an all-star? In my opinion, the answer is no. He's not an all-star yet. And the difference is this. Stats don't tell all the story. Siakam is doing this on a winning team in Toronto. Yes, it's in the East, and it makes a big difference. Brandon Ingram's doing this on a losing team, yet again. Brandon Ingram, for him to be able to become an all-star, has to show that he can lead his team to wins. His team is definitely better with him than without him, but he's got to lead them to more wins. And in the West, it's tough, especially when you're dealing with the injuries that team has dealt with. Lonzo Ball is going to help Brandon Ingram be better. He'll help him to get easy baskets. Brandon Ingram is a player that doesn't need somebody to set him up to score, but it makes it a lot easier when you have somebody who can set you up to score. That's one of the reasons why the Lakers wanted to get rid of Ingram, was because Lonzo doesn't need the ball. Kyle Kuzma doesn't need the ball. Brandon Ingram needs the ball in his hand to be effective. It's nothing wrong with that. He just wasn't the best fit with LeBron James. Brandon Ingram in this Pelican style, where you have a Zion who's not a high usage guy, where you have a Drew Holiday who's not a selfish star, where you have a Lonzo who loves to get rid of the ball. This is a team where he can truly excel. And I think that when Zion comes back, I think Ingram's game can go to another level. Zion is a guy who's going to attract all the attention, which is going to open up Ingram from even more open shots. I think Brandon Ingram, number one, he hasn't even hit the surface. He hasn't even scratched the surface of as good as he can be. But if a guy's going to give me 26, 7, and 4 in 33 minutes a game, efficiently, he's not a volume scorer. He's not taking 25 shots to get 26 points a game. He's giving you 19 shots a game, which is less than Pascal Siakam, and scoring the same amount of points. So if Brandon Ingram can continue to develop and can start racking up some wins, he'll make a case. I don't think he'll get it specifically in the West. The West is just too loaded. I mean, you got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Like, it's just too many guys in the West for him to make an all-star team. But in due time, it'll come. He will be an all-star as long as he stays healthy. That's the big question mark of why last year, and people forget this, last year after the all-star break, after the whole trade rumors and all that stuff died down, Brandon Ingram was putting together these types of stats last year. That's the last 6 games before he got injured with his I think he had blood clot in his shoulder. He was putting up these types of numbers, like 27 and 8 or something like that, something ridiculous. He's got to do it on a winning situation. And I think he can, and I think in the future as he continues to develop, because once again, go back and look at the Paul Georges, go back and look at the Kawhi and the Giannis and the Gordon Hayward and the Jimmy Butlers. Go back and look at when they started having their breakout season. Paul George, for the only year he ever put up more points than what Brandon Ingram is averaging right now, the only season he ever put up more points than what Brandon Ingram is averaging right now was last year, where he was a first-team All-NBA player and third in MVP voting. I think Brandon Ingram has a better case for the most improved player than an all-star this year. To me, I think, like I said, it's between him and Pascal. Because Pascal won it last year, it probably would lean more toward Brandon Ingram. I wouldn't be surprised who gets it. They're both deserving. But Ingram is serious, man. Let me know. Go down to the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Do you think Brandon Ingram should be the most improved player? Do you think he should be an all-star? What do you think his ceiling is? If he's 22 putting up these types of numbers efficiently, where do you think his ceiling is? I want to hear from you in the comment section. As always, listen, I appreciate you for taking a look at this video. Please hit that subscribe button, tap that like button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can stay updated with the journey of a Ballaholic.